Hey, what's up, YouTube? Today's class is going to be another beginner-friendly class, so we're going to be looking at finding some core stability, some balance work. The beginner-friendly series isn't really meant for the absolute beginner. It's more meant for people who've maybe been to a few classes, starting to get interested in yoga, and want some sort of guidance on technique to sort of deepen their practice. Yeah, if you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you want to see in the future. We're going to start this one stood up, so I'm just going to come onto my mat. I'm going to bring the weight into my left foot, so I spread my toes on my left foot and start leaning my hips gently across to that left-hand side, so my center of gravity is stacked over my left foot. I'm going to bring my hands to my lower back or my hips, and then just slowly starting to think about lifting the right leg to touch it in front, to the side, and then behind. While I'm doing this, I'm just going to find that nice long breath that I use in the class. So deep inhalation, deep exhalation through the nose whenever possible. As I get comfortable, I can start to lift the foot off the floor. If you lose the balance here, just touch the toe down. Try not to break the shape, so don't allow the form of the posture to go just because you lose your balance. And I'm just allowing that left foot to do the balancing. I'm not overthinking it. The weight's moving around on the left foot's adjusting for the balance. And then bringing that right foot down. Weight stacks across into the right foot. When you're ready, touching the left toe forwards to the side and back. And once you get comfortable, lifting the leg. If you lose it, remember just to tap that toe down. This is always going to be an option in these standing balances. And then bringing the left foot down. I'm going to bring my weight back into the left foot now and bring my right foot, the right heel onto the leg. So the weight is stacked and I can maybe try and lift the foot onto the side of the leg. Or if you're very balanced, you might even lift the heel all the way up, chest lifting, belly drawing in. And on these static balances, on these balances where we're not moving, I'm just focusing on a point on the floor. So my gaze is just locked down on something that's not moving, so giving my body the best chance of balancing. And then releasing off. Weight comes into the right foot, left heel comes to the leg, and then when you're ready, you might try lifting the foot. You don't have to though, you could stay low. And if I lose the balance, just like we did at the start, I'm just going to tap the toe down, but try to keep the shape. So keep the form. And then releasing down. I'm just going to come to stand at the front of my mat. I'm going to bring my hands back to where they were. So sacrum, lower back, hips, chest lifting, belly drawing in. And then I'm going to transition that weight across into the left foot and slowly lift the right knee up this time. So I'm thinking about drawing the knee in towards the chest as much as I can. If you lose the balance, remember you can always touch that toe down, but try to keep the shape of the pose. And then nice and slowly just bringing the right leg back, bringing the foot down, and allowing the hips to square off to the short side of the mat so they're facing that short side of the mat. I'm going to bring my hands down to my leg, draw in my belly, lift my chest, try to bring the weight forwards and switch on the feet and the legs. So I ground my back foot into the mat and I draw the front leg into the hip socket here. If you have tight hamstrings, you might need to have some softness in this front knee. And I want to start developing this feeling of the feet really gripping the mat so I can engage the muscles in my legs. And then bending that front knee, bringing the fingertips down, stepping the right foot forwards, keep the feet at hip distance apart and just soften the neck and the head down. Release your shoulders. I'm going to think about trying to melt my belly into my thighs here. So if the hamstrings are tight, you're going to need to bend your knees to do that. Try to find this closeness between the legs and the torso. Take some nice deep breaths. And then lifting the chest halfway, inhaling. Bring the hands to the hips, exhale. And then with control, inhaling, lifting up. And releasing off the pose. We're going to bring that weight into the right foot now. So stacking the weight across to the right hand side. Hands coming to the bum, to the hips. Slowly lifting that left foot, flexing the foot. And drawing the knee up as high as you can. Lose it, remember just to tap that toe down. And then stepping the left foot back, nice and slow and controlled, squaring off the hips, getting those feet active and those legs active. So the feet nice and grippy, front legs drawing into the hip socket, back foot's pushing the floor away, drawing the belly, lift the chest, lengthen. So my core is active here. If this front hamstring's tight, the knee is a little softer, otherwise drawing it back and in. And then softening the knee, bringing the fingertips down, the hands down, stepping back and dropping the knees down, finding yourself in an all fours position. So hands underneath shoulders and knees underneath hips. I'm going to round my back up here. So I'm thinking about pressing my back up to the ceiling, extending out of the shoulders, drawing the belly in, drawing the ribs in. And then I'm going to try and maintain this as I bring the weight forward and back. So pressing the hips forward and back. And then coming back to all fours and drawing the belly in, let your back arch. So think about drawing belly in, pulling the shoulder blades back together. I might work into the sides a little here or circle the shoulders just to release off. And then walking the hands a little further forward and just pull the elbows in as you lower yourself down. And we're going to set up for Sphinx pose here. So I want my hands underneath my shoulders. And I'm thinking about drawing my belly in, pulling my shoulder blades back together, switching on the legs. So I ground the legs, squeeze my bum, activate the glutes. Thinking about drawing myself forward using my arms, so drawing the chest forward and drawing the belly in. So you want to feel like the belly's lifting up off the floor, the stomach's lifting, shoulder blades pulling back and down, active glutes. and then releasing down. Bringing the hands underneath the shoulders, pressing those hips back. And we're going to find a low plank here. So I'm going to bring my forearms down to the mat. And then lifting the hips up. I'm going to draw my belly in and tuck my tailbone here to stop my bum lifting into the air. Squeeze my glutes. And then extending out of the shoulders. So try to push the floor away with the hands and with the forearms. I'm going to press my hips back here, bend my knees, and just walking the feet as close as you're comfortable with here. If you feel the hands starting to slip, the forearms starting to slip, you can always take the hands together. Think about pushing out of the shoulders to press those hips back and soften the neck and the head. If you're finding this easy, walk those feet a little closer, or maybe work on extending the legs so they're straighter. Keep pushing the floor away. And then dropping the knees down. Bringing the hands back down to your mat, and we're lifting up into a downward dog from here. So I want that same sensation of the hips pressing back. I'm going to spread my fingers, really extend out of my shoulders to push the floor away. If the hamstrings are tight, again, bend those knees a little bit. It's really important to get this feeling energetically of things pressing backwards, so you can push out of your shoulders, soften the neck and the head. If the hamstrings are open, you can always be working on trying to extend the legs. Lengthen the breath out here. And then bending the knees, gazing forward, stepping the right foot forwards. I'm going to squeeze my knee into my chest and then dropping the foot down. And we're finding the standing position that we've already done once so far. So this is called Parsvattanasana. Hips are closing off to the short side of the mat, back foot pushing the floor and front leg drawing into the hip socket. Remember, you might need some softness in this front knee. Draw in the belly, lift the chest, lengthen. See if you can extend your arms here. So I'm no longer using the arms on the leg. Core is active. And then from here, I'm going to bring my left hand to the leg, my right hand to my sacrum. And I'm just going to start working that twist. So the right shoulder's starting to lift. Gazing at the floor, and if you're balanced, try to lift the gaze or lift the arm, or both. What I'm really trying to work here is getting these legs supporting, the torso active, so I don't have to use the left hand so much. And then releasing down. I'm going to soften my knee. Ground my hands, step back, find downward dog. Work on extending out of the shoulders again, pressing those hips back. And then bending the knees, gazing forward, stepping the left foot forward, squeeze that knee in as tight as you can before you bring the foot down. Drop the right heel and finding Parsvattanasana on this left side. So these nice grippy feet are the foundations. I'm pushing into them. I'm drawing the front leg into the hip socket. Stabilize that front leg. Can bring my hands forward. And then I'm bringing my right hand to my leg, my left hand to my sacrum, gazing at the floor to start with. Build that rotation slowly. Remember, it should feel strong. Left shoulder lifting. If you're balanced, arm can lift, gaze to lift. But try to get this feeling of the legs being really active and the core being engaged. So I'm lifting my torso up out of the twist. And then releasing. Bending the front knee, bringing the fingertips down, stepping the right leg forward this time. Bring the feet together, we'll sit into chair pose. So I squeeze into that center line, draw my belly in, extend my arms. Sitting as low as I'm comfortable with here. And the inner thighs are really drawing in towards one another. I want them active. And then standing up. I'm going to split the feet out. We're going to come back to that pose, but we're going to work on trying to transfer the weight from foot to foot. Well, transfer the weight into one foot and then the other side. So I still want this feeling of squeezing into my center line, so I'm coming in as opposed to splaying out to the sides. And I'm going to work very slowly and just see if I can slowly lift my right foot up. I won't just lift it up until I'm balanced. I'll find that balance first. So sitting back down into chair pose. This time the feet split. I'm going to stack my weight across into the left hand foot, the left foot, and slowly start to think about hovering that right foot up off the floor. You might touch the toes down. If you're feeling strong, you might squeeze the knee in and up. And then bringing the right foot down, stacking the weight across to that right hand side. Slowly thinking about lifting the left. And then bringing that left foot down and exhaling to fold forward, soften into this fold. So take a couple of nice deep breaths. Belly's melting down into the thighs, torso's coming down into the legs. Bend those knees as much as you need to find that. As you get more comfortable, you can be working on extending those legs a little. And then inhaling, lifting the chest a little, ground the hands, step back, and dropping the knees down. And finding all fours. So we've got hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and we're going to come into a pose called swimming, or into a movement, which is commonly called swimming. So I'm going to try and keep the hips as level as I can, as stable as I can for the whole time. Core's going to be very active to stabilize this. My right hand lengthens, or my right arm lengthens, and my left leg lengthens. And then I bring them back into all fours, and I change left arm and right leg. I'm going to connect this movement with my breath. Try to get it as smooth as possible. If you're comfortable, you can start to lift. Again, just trying to keep as stable as possible. Making sure I'm breathing, extending the arm, extending the leg, getting them active, drawing the belly in so the core is active. And one last one. And then walking the hands forward and pulling those elbows in, lower yourself down to your mat. We're going to come into Cobra this time. I pull my hands back either side of the ribs, as close as I'm comfortable with. So I get the hands as close into my sides as I can. And then pulling the elbows in by the side, I'm going to draw in my belly and lengthen the chest forward. So just a low cobra. Shoulder blades pulling back and down. I switch on my legs, so they're nice and active, squeezing the glutes, grounding the legs down. And just like with the Sphinx pose we did earlier on, I want to think about the stomach lifting up off the floor. So I'm drawing the tummy up, drawing the shoulder blades back and down, switching on my core. And then releasing down. We're going to do it one more time. This time, if I can, I'm going to try and get the fingers light, the hands light, so I can maybe hover them off the floor or lift them up. I want to make sure the core is very, very active to facilitate this. So I draw in, try and get that feeling of lifting the stomach, activate the legs, draw the shoulder blades back together, activate the glutes. And then releasing down. Pressing the hips back. And we're returning back to our low plank. So I bring my forearms down to the mat. Lifting up the hips, drawing in the belly, tucking the tailbone under. Pushing out of the shoulders. I got my feet at hip distance here. And then I'm just going to allow my hips to drop to the left hand side. My feet are going to split and my right arm can lift, or I can work it on the hip. And just trying to push out of that left shoulder into the forearm, into the hand. Keep the hips lifting. And then bringing the right forearm down, rolling across to that right hand side. Feet split, left arm can lift, hips can lift, extend out of the shoulder, push, lift those hips. And then bringing the left forearm down to the mat. I'm going to bring my feet together because I'm going to give it a go at progressing this one on. If you found the last one difficult, maybe keep the feet at hip distance. This time, as I rock to that left-hand side, the feet are going to stack, one on top of each other. And I'm slowly lifting this right arm up, pressing my hips up, maybe lifting the gaze if unbalanced. You can always be in that previous version. Right forearm comes down, rolling across to that right hand side, feet stacked, and slowly lifting that left arm, lifting my hips, pushing the floor away. And then bringing the left forearm down and dropping the knees down and coming back to an all fours position. So finding that setup and then taking your time extending right leg, or right arm rather, and left leg, and then lifting. So we're coming back into our swimming movement, but this time we're just pausing. Let the body stabilize here, let it find its balance. Activate the left leg, the right arm, draw in the belly. And then nice big inhalation. And as you exhale, compress. So I bring my right elbow to my left knee, squeeze in, and then inhale to lengthen out. And on this one, we're just going to pause again, extend, find your balance, get stable. And then bringing the right hand down, switching sides, left arm extending, right leg extending. When you're ready, lifting them up. And then nice and long as you inhale, and as you exhale, compressing. Finding that stability. Pausing on this one, lengthening out. And then bringing the left hand down, and we're lifting into our downward dog, pressing those hips back. Extend out of the shoulders, get the hands feeling nice and strong. Draw the belly in, soften the neck and the head. And then we're going to try and shift the weight one more time. So this time I'm shifting the weight between the hands. So I'm going to try and move it over to this left hand. So my right hand starts getting a little lighter. I can maybe come up onto the fingertips or float the hand off the floor. If you're feeling really balanced here, you might bring the right hand to the right leg. Just continue to extend out of the left shoulder, push the floor away. Try not to lift the right heel, bring the weight into the left foot if you can. Keep those feet down, keep the weight even through the feet. We're just working on trying to shift the weight through the arms. Bringing the right hand down, shifting that way into the right hand, and coming up onto the fingertips if you can on the left. And then bringing the left hand down, dropping the knees down, dropping the hips across to the left hand side, bringing the legs through, bending the knees, and we're moving on into Navasana here. So we're going to work on Navasana with some movement. Try to keep the chest lifted the whole time. Think about the inner thighs squeezing in for that stability. So you're drawing into your center line, and the legs are going to activate. So I'm going to be pointing my toes as I'm working some extension through the legs. I extend my arms. The toes can be touching down. And then I'm going to lift that right leg. And then changing sides. As you get more comfortable with it, you might try to hover the feet or extend the legs a little bit more, or both. You're only going to be able to extend the legs if the hamstrings are open. Otherwise, this movement's going to look a little more like this if the hamstrings are tight. So don't worry about it. Just working at your edge. Last one. And then releasing off. Just soften the shoulders, roll them out. And then coming back into Navasana. Touching my toes down, squeezing the inner thighs together, and this time I'm going to work some double leg extensions. So this one will be tougher than the last one. So I'm going to start low. Try to keep my chest lifted. And if you're extending the legs all the way, squeeze the inner thighs together, point those toes. Try to keep the chest lifted. Again, if the hamstrings are tight, it's going to look a little more like this. One last one. And then releasing off. Release those shoulders. Coming back into Unavasana. And I'm lifting my chest. And this time working some rotation. So thinking about the torso coming across to the right hand side. And then the left hand side. I want the knees still drawing into that center line as much as I can. Chest still lifting. And then releasing off. Taking a breath, softening the shoulders. And then extending the legs out and lowering yourself back. And we're coming into bridge. So I bend my knees, bring the heels back closer to the bum. And I want my feet at about hip distance apart, and I want them to be parallel. We're going to really try and activate the legs here, so we're going to switch them on as much as we can. I'm going to lift the hips when I'm ready and draw my shoulder blades back and together so I can lift the weight onto the shoulder blades, and then my neck and my head isn't taking so much of the weight. I'm going to draw my belly in, squeeze my inner thighs together. So even though they're hip distance, I want the feeling of drawing them into that center line. And I'm going to activate my glutes. So squeezing the bum. And then releasing the pose down. Now, there's the option of trying to bring this into the single leg lifts. Like all of the other poses that we've done using this shifting of weight, go very slow with it. And if you want to just stick with your regular bridge, just stick with the regular bridge. Finding hips lifting, shoulder blades pulling back and together. Inner thighs drawing into that center line. Legs active, glutes active. I've got these grippy feet, so I really feel the feet active. I'm going to shift my weight across to this left-hand side and then slowly see if I can maybe lift the heel or hover that right foot up off the floor. Or if this is easy, maybe have a try at lifting the leg all the way. Bringing the right foot down, switching that weight across to the right hand side, and then slowly trying to hover that left foot, or lift, or just maybe lift the heel, or lifting the leg all the way. Bringing the left foot down. Releasing the body down. And then we're going to work one final bridge. So if you wanted to work the single legs, you can. If you want to just stick with a regular bridge for this last one, you can as well. So I'm lifting my hips, shoulder blades pulling together. Squeezing the inner thighs together. Drawing the belly in, activating the glutes. Weight shifts to the left-hand side. Right foot gets a little lighter. Right foot coming down, weight shifting across to that right-hand side. And then the left foot coming down, lowering the body down, drawing the knees in, giving yourself a hug, lengthening the breath out. then dropping the knees across to the right hand side, turn the torso across to the left hand side. Lengthen the breath. If you wanted to extend the top leg over the bottom leg here, it's always an option in this pose. And then changing across to the other side. And then coming back into the middle, I'm going to take a Shavasana if you wanted to do a few more poses. Before you rest, before you finish off your practice, then you're more than welcome, obviously. This is where we'll leave it. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you want to see next, what sort of video you want to see next. Thanks for watching.